Here's a colorful and fun city scene that you can easily paint freehand without any sketching or planning. The process here is beginner friendly and you can use any brushes you want, but I'll list the ones I'm using in the description. So I've already got a rectangle sketched out here, and this is just like an overall guideline for the illustration I want to make, and I can pretty much start right away painting people. And usually what I do is, I'm going to grab the smooth round brush and some kind of color for the shirt. Usually I do the shirt first, and I'll sketch that out like this. And then usually for simple people, I'll just draw some simple kind of noodle arms. After that, I like to draw the pants. In this case, I think I'm going to give him some kind of khaki color pants. Same smooth round brush, and I'm just going to draw one kind of column like this. There we go. Then I can use the eraser again, and I can carve it down the middle to separate it into two legs. Then after that, I can grab my skin tone, and I can do the head and the hands. The shoes are pretty simple. I'll just choose any random color, and sometimes I'll do a solid shape, but then other times I'll just do an outline like this. And it's normal at this point for the characters to look pretty stiff. We'll pose them in a minute, but at this point I like to add some accessories like hair and maybe some bags that he's carrying. And once you're happy with the outfit and the accessories, you can move on and start working on the pose. And the way I do that is I use the freehand selection tool. And for example, I want to make him walking, so I'm just going to select one leg. Since he's walking that way, that's going to be the straight leg. And I'll just tip it like that. Then the back leg, I'll do a similar thing the other direction. But this time, I'm going to select it and kind of chop it off at the knee. And then kind of pose it like that. And this often leaves a little bit of an error there at the knee, but it's okay because we can grab the water blender and fix it by blending it. And I think his arms look pretty good, but I want this arm to be a little bit more that way. So again, I'll select it with the freehand selection tool, move it in a bit, and then I can use the blender again to kind of smooth that transition. And the very last thing I like to do to finish up the characters is work on the balance a little bit. And I'm not super good at this, so I do it kind of by experimentation. So I'm going to grab the arrow tool, and I'm going to set it to distort. And I'm going to play around with kind of leaning him and skewing him and just see what feels right. And there we go, I think that looks good enough. And this is pretty much the same workflow I'm going to use to paint all the characters. And for this illustration, I need to paint 8 of them. So just to keep this video short, I'm going to fast forward through it, but I will make sure to show you each one here because I think it's fascinating to see. And there we go, all 8 people are finished. In real time, this only took about 15 minutes to paint. Now if I open the layers panel, you can see each person is on his own separate layer, and I want to move on and paint the kind of background scene, so I need to hide these for now. So I'm just going to select all the people at the same time. I'll group them, and then I'll just turn off the group just for now. I'll make a new layer, and I'm going to move it below the people. And this is where I'm going to paint the first element, which is basically just the crosswalk. And I'm just going to use a random gray tone, same smooth round brush, and I'm just going to paint a bunch of kind of splotchy parallel lines. After that, I'm going to grab the eraser brush, and I'm just going to use it to flatten out both sides. Then I can use the arrow tool, and it's set to distort, and I'm going to mess with the perspective just to give this an interesting skew. Now in this illustration, I want there to be 2 crosswalks, so I'm just going to duplicate this one, move it up, and I'll skew it in a slightly different way, just so it doesn't look exactly the same as the bottom one. And with the crosswalks finished, I'm going to turn on the group with all the people in it, and I'm just going to randomly position them kind of one by one throughout the scene. And there we go. I think this arrangement looks pretty good. This could be pretty much done kind of as it is, but I want to show you how to add some kind of simple, cute cars to the background, just as a little finishing touch. And the cars are going to be on their own layer, so I'll make a layer above everything. I basically want to paint a taxi, so I'm going to use a golden yellow color. And I'm going to go to the drawing kind of brush tab here and use the little pine brush. And I'm going to sketch out the silhouette of a very simple car. Then for the wheels, I'm going to use almost black, and I'll just scribble them in like this. Then for the body of the car, I'll make another new layer. I'll grab my kind of yellowy tone again, and I want to fill it in using a charcoal brush. Then after that, I'll grab my eraser brush, and I'll kind of clear out a space for the windows. And the last detail I want to add is a taxi sign up here. So for that, I'm just going to go back to the watercolor brushes and use the fine liner pen, and I'll fill that out real quick. And I did this car on 2 layers, so I'm going to merge them together onto one. Then I can use the arrow tool set to distort to position the car a little bit better and also give it an interesting skew. And then for the car down here, I'm just going to duplicate this taxi. I'll drag it down here, and I'll skew it in the other direction, and also scale it up a bit so it looks closer. And just like that, this busy city scene is all finished. One thing I love about this technique is it helps me break away from my perfectionism and focus more on expressing myself and what I see. The style is also very modular, so you can kind of expand it by adding more elements to the top or to the side and make it fit pretty much any print size. And before I go, here are 2 more kind of similar styled illustration tutorials that I think you'll love to watch next.